In life, we cross paths with many individuals, whether that be via education, at work, or just general socializing. And for the most part, when we do cross paths, bonds build, and potential friendships are made with complete strangers. But for as many good interactions we have with random people, the complete opposite is also true. And since I started my channel, the amount of cases I've came across where a life-threatening situation occurs because you were, as the phrase goes, in the wrong place at the wrong time, is in the tens if not hundreds. Of course, a vast majority of them I haven't covered. Running with this theme of paths crossing then, is a story that has been partly resolved earlier on this month in July of 2022. Before we get into this case though, for those of you who live outside of the UK, or maybe you just have no clue who these people are that I'm about to show you, this is Ant McPartlin and Declan Donnelly, better known as Ant and Dec from Newcastle in the north of England. They're known for presenting TV shows including I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Britain's Got Talent, and of course their own show, Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. Just put it this way, they're icons in the UK, comparable I'd say to the likes of Steve Harvey over in the United States. Coming full circle with today's case, and on one May's evening in 2021, a joke would be made towards 35-year-old Danny Humble by complete strangers who would end up on trial for his murder. As the national coronavirus lockdown was coming to an end in and around May time in 2021, the people of England were thankful that they could finally get out of the house to go and enjoy time with friends. On the 28th of May, Danny Humble and his partner, Adele Stubbs, would go out for a meal followed by some drinks in their hometown of Cramlington. That's about 6 miles away from Newcastle. They were over the moon that life felt like it was getting back to normal, ever so slightly. Cautious that the government were about to go ahead and reverse the lockdown ease, they wanted to drink the night away. Trying to make what time of it they could, on that evening, they would drink, according to Adele, quote, a canny skinful of alcohol. That is Geordie or Newcastle slang for getting drunk. Not tipsy, but not quite blackout either. The night would be enjoyable. Everyone was more sociable than normal after being cooped up in their house. But eventually it was time for the night to end and for the pair to catch some shut-eye. From here, both Danny and Adele would leave the Blagdon Arms and headed home. In order to reach their destination, they had to pass by Romsey Close, and in order to reach that street, they had to go through this underpass. When doing so, they encountered a group of, at the time, 16 to 18-year-olds. Confirmed to be at the scene were 5 people: Alistair Dixon, Kairos Robinson, Ethan Scott, Bailey Wilson, and a 17-year-old boy who can't be named at this current time due to his age. They too had been out in pubs drinking the night away as they wanted to get back out after being cooped up in the house. What would transpire over the next couple of hours, however, would see them cooped up in a jail cell for the foreseeable future. Talking of the hours before crossing paths with Danny and Adele, the 17-year-old boy would go on to tell a jury that it had been one of the best nights of his life, having a good old laugh with friends. To say the group were drunk would be an understatement. Either way, as you know, in the early hours of the 29th, the group would cross paths with the couple, but the version of events from here is a bit hazy as there's some conflicting reports. But for the most part, both stories are pretty much the same. According to the 17-year-old boy, he said he noticed Adele standing by herself as Danny was using the tree as a urinal. He asked her what she was doing just standing there by herself. She told him she was waiting for her boyfriend, and eventually the two called him over. Whereas Adele said that they'd been making their way towards the underpass and a conversation was struck up between the two parties. What is confirmed is that after they had started to walk through the underpass, a joke was made towards Danny about him looking like Ant from Ant and Dec. Third-party witness accounts say that the pair laughed the joke off as Danny would get that quite often from other people. But the then teens became more pushy with their jokes. They began asking for autographs, amongst other things. And this is all confirmed in reports. What isn't confirmed though is what would happen over quite literally the following seconds. One theory that has been put forward is that Danny out of nowhere attempted to either push or punch one of the group, and to this the group retaliated. No other explanation has been detailed in reports. All that said is that this could have happened. Either way, over the next 15 seconds, what started as a laugh would result in at least the 5 people previously named unleashing a brutal attack on Danny via punches and kicks. A third-party witness described Danny getting dropped by punches and then laid into by kicks. He said the group didn't miss any part of his body. After the attack, some of the group stuck around but would eventually flee when police arrived. Adele did all she could to try and save Danny's life, but ultimately, the blood that was pouring out of his mouth was a huge indicator as to the state he was sadly in. Paramedics would arrive a short while later, but sadly, Danny would eventually be pronounced dead. 7 young men and teens were arrested in connection with the murder investigation, and all would deny the charges that were brought against them, so they went on trial. After the prosecution finished giving evidence in June of 2022, the judge decided that 2 of the 7 involved should be discharged. Of course, this has to be passed by a jury, but for the most part, it can get dropped if the judge feels like a case isn't strong enough against them. In this case, the jury would agree that both boys should be given a non-guilty verdict, and they were discharged. That meant the 5 people we've previously named would see the trial through. In the end, Kairos Robinson, Ethan Scott, Bailey Wilson, and the 17-year-old boy were found guilty of manslaughter, whilst Alistair Dixon was found guilty of murder. Reports don't make it clear as to why Alistair was the only person to receive a murder verdict, but the evidence must have suggested for whatever reason he meant what he was doing. All we know is that he ran up to Danny and kicked him with extreme force. Again, it doesn't say whether he dealt this blow, but the killer blow had been dealt to the neck. The prosecution said that a stomp left a trainer impression on his neck. This stamp tore a major artery, causing extensive bleeding in the brain. This is all the information that is surrounding this case so far though. All 5 are due to be sentenced in September of 2022.